Tectonic shift. Shaping the future with innovation.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Prompt Engineering Podcast. In this video, we will learn some basics of prompt engineering, so let's get started. So, prompt engineering is important, but why exactly should you care about it? Well, because prompt engineering is in the end all about writing good prompts, and good prompts lead to good results. I could, for example, ask ChatGPT to write me a blog post about hiking. Now, if I do that, I will of course get such a blog post, but the blog post will be pretty generic, not very specific, and might not be too interesting to read because I also had a pretty generic prompt with not a lot of information in it. So, while this could be the blog post we want, it's quite likely that it's not. That we might want a more specific blog post, and we can get a more specific blog post by fine tuning and adjusting and improving our prompt. For example, here I have another prompt where I want ChatGPT to generate a blog post about hiking. But this time I'm providing more information to ChatGPT, more context, and as you will learn in the upcoming episodes, that context is everything. It's super important when writing prompts, so here I am providing more context, and as a result, when sending that prompt to ChatGPT, I get a way more detailed and specific blog post that is probably way more useful to me. And that's why prompt engineering matters and what prompt engineering is all about. In the end, it is about writing good prompts and getting good results. And writing good prompts is all about adding just the right information and just the right context to the right goal. So, how do you write good prompts? How do you create good ChatGPT prompts? Well, in the end, every good prompt consists of two main elements, and that would be the goal of your prompt, and some additional context, some additional information. That helps ChatGPT produce a better result, better output for the prompt you specified, for the goal you specified with your prompt. Though this context part could actually be broken up into two separate types of context, two separate types of extra information, because it is quite common that for many prompts you add a role to the prompt, so where you assign a role to ChatGPT, so that it's not just a default AI assistant anymore, but that it's instead something more specific defined by you. For example, if we want ChatGPT to create a highly engaging tweet which we can post on Twitter, we could specify a goal that could be write or tweet about hiking. But we could also specify an extra role typically before specifying the goal. And in that extra role, you can tell ChatGPT how it should behave, hence giving ChatGPT extra context which it will use for generating the result, the output. Now, adding such a role to your prompt is totally optional and definitely not needed for all prompts. Indeed, there are many kinds of prompts where adding such a role simply is needed or it doesn't make sense. For example, if you are asking ChatGPT who was the first president of the United States, you don't need to add an extra role. The question alone is enough. But for some prompts like we just given for Twitter tweet creation, adding such an extra role can make a lot more sense. Now, besides adding such an optional role, you can also add extra constraints or extra information to your prompt. And this is also optional but highly recommended since adding such extra constraints and extra information makes all prompts better. And Dataflow also makes almost all responses better. And in the end, both roles and extra information or constraints are, of course, all about adding that extra context which I mentioned before. For example, here I added a constraint that the response, the output generated by ChatGPT, should contain no more than two emojis at most and that the target audience are nature enthusiasts. In addition, I added some extra information here where I tell ChatGPT that the tweet it generates should highlight two advantages of going on a hike regularly. As a result, here I get this tweet about the advantages of going on a hike regularly, which only uses two emojis as instructed by me and which clearly targets nature enthusiasts. And that's, of course, just a basic example. In upcoming episodes, you will see way more examples. But the general idea is always the same. With every prompt, you have a goal, and pretty much all prompts get better when you add extra context, additional information, and that extra context, as mentioned, can be added by adding a role, which makes sense for some but not all prompts, and by adding extra constraints or information, which makes sense for a lot of prompts. That's all for today. We'll see you in the next episode with some new exciting prompting techniques. Until then, bye bye.